Hello, there's Tania Gabrielle, Wealth Astro-Numerologist. Welcome to Star Codes. This is the podcast where we look at an upcoming event in the Astro-Numerology, the stars and numbers, to help us navigate the energies the most high vibrational way possible. And in this case, it's the Sagittarius new moon on November 23rd. Sagittarius, the sign that Jupiter rules, so we have a lot of joy and expansion and wisdom at our disposal. So always a welcome time of the year. And this one takes place, as I said, November 23rd at 10:57 p.m. Universal Time, London, 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, and 2:57 p.m. Pacific Time. And you don't need to be a Sagittarius to benefit from this video. You have Sagittarius in your birth chart. So this new moon takes place at 1 degree somewhere in your birth chart in one of the 12 houses. And it may be conjunct, trine, square, opposite, sextile, a planet, or an angle in your chart. So it does impact you in some way. So a few initial points. This is a new moon, so it is about fresh new beginnings, and it happens at 1 degree, which of course is the number of fresh starts. It's the first number, and in numerology, it actually means new beginnings. So we have a double new beginnings theme, so that's very exciting. Also, the sun and moon at 1 degree are conjunct, merged with Venus and Mercury. Now, if you remember, during the total full moon eclipse on November 8th, the sun and moon were also merged with Venus and Mercury. So that theme continues and it makes it more personal. So that means there are 4 personal planets, so the sun being actually a star, but the sun, moon, Mercury, and Venus, which in astrology govern our personal nature, whereas the outer planets like Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Saturn, they govern our more subconscious nature. So 4 personal planets in a stellium, that's a big deal. And they form a trine to Jupiter. Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius. So what a fortunate new moon, and how different from the November 8th total lunar eclipse, which was so intense and groundbreaking and all about sudden changes. And this one is just chill. This is beautiful. It is invigorating in a very joyful, fortunate way. And it lightens up the energy now. The heaviness from earlier in the month is going to really shift. And, Sagittarius always brings a beautiful perspective because of the wisdom, and also because it is very expansive and sees the bird's eye view. Sagittarius sees beyond the horizon, and so that's a welcome retreat as well, because that wisdom and joy and expansion is now what we're going to use energetically to move forward through whatever intensity impacted us earlier in the month. Now, the symbol for Sagittarius is the archer with the arrow. And so that arrow literally is about searching for higher wisdom, higher learning, and spiritual growth. So it's a wonderful time to dive into those topics. So you can do so for free in a free masterclass at spiritualmasteryclass.com. So head on over there and get a taste of what is happening in the ethers at this time in human history. This class is really fun, and it really helps you to take your power back internally. So go on over to spiritualmasteryclass.com and watch that free webinar. Now, Sagittarius is the fountain of wisdom. The moon is trine Jupiter. The sun is trine Jupiter. Mercury and Venus also are trine to Jupiter. And so there's a lot of wonderful energy here to feel recognized at soul level, to have very good negotiations, to feel happy and free to share your heart, to feel magnetic regarding any career developments, and basically happiness and kindness in a high vibrational way of energy, financial gains, increasing your net worth, all of those are incumbent upon you being grateful, because Jupiter and Sagittarius also govern gratitude. So the more grateful you feel, the more you can tap into the wonderful benefits. And benefits is a word that starts with B-E-N-E, which means good. So you absolutely have a lot of goodness in your life at this time. The conjunction with Venus and Mercury brings up a lot regarding love and also our values, financial flow. And Mercury is also about thinking clearly. How are your thoughts actually informing you emotionally, right? So basically, thoughts move fast when they are merged in a fire sign, which Sagittarius is. So you want to adapt to the variety, be very, very open and not stuck in a thought pattern, like easily get out of it, easily recognize it through that spiritual understanding when you are stuck in a place that is basically invoking old patterns. So this will be very, very important. Now, Mercury's conjunction, as it was with the Scorpio lunar eclipse on November 8th, which was also conjunct the actual eclipse itself, which means the sun in this full moon eclipse, Mercury's conjunction with this new moon is placing a major focus on not paying attention to that incessant voice in your head that just runs constantly. And so that way you're no longer impacted by the thought stream, which is the past. So if you are constantly listening to that, you're only functioning based on the past. You are not in the present moment. And if Jupiter is anything, because joy only exists, true joy only exists in the present moment. So to the extent that you can actually see beyond a way of thinking that is based on fear, really, or based on abandonment, or based on lack of trust. Trust is very much trust and faith is part of the Sagittarius experience. Having faith is part of the fortunate feeling you have inside because you trust that there is a higher divine presence in your life. And Sagittarius is very aligned to that. So having faith in the most high vibrational, beneficial outcome, no matter what the situation is one of the big themes as well. Now, Mars will be square to Neptune, and Mars will be trine to Saturn during this new moon. Mars is the ruler of Aries, the first sign. Remember, this new moon's at 1 degree, and the new moon is also about new beginnings, and Aries is the first sign. So that's also indicative of fresh starts. So this creates a much more internalized energy because Mars is currently in retrograde and will be until January 12th. So that inner energy, internalizing the energy in terms of where you direct your joy, your energy resources, is very, very important. And the trine to Saturn makes it real. It's very beautiful because Saturn is very much connected to everything to do with manifestation and also your career. Saturn governs the 10th house with Capricorn, naturally in astrology, so it gives you the fortitude and the responsibility to move forward. Now, in this case, Mars retrograde is making that internal, so you have like this wonderful internal sense of where do I put my fire, my inner fire, which Mars represents being the ruler of Aries, a fire sign, and Sagittarius is also a fire sign. So there's a lot of fire energy here, and it gets lightened up because Mars is in an air sign and Saturn's in an air sign. Saturn's in Aquarius, Mars is in Gemini, and that means there's a lightness to this energy that helps you take flight and see the bigger perspective, very akin to Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is the sign of universal truths. And that archer that symbolizes Sagittarius holds the bow of truth that seeks the bull's eye, which is symbolized by the third eye, the eye of perception. The third eye resides in the head, but it is not connected to our two physical eyes, which we use to live in 3D. The third eye actually is a multidimensional eye. So it connects to your inner light. And if you close your eyes so that you're not engaged physically, you actually have an even greater capability because you're not distracted by 3D reality, which constantly is giving feedback to your mind. You turn that down, you quiet your mind, and you can absolutely take advantage of getting in touch with universal truths at this time. So I highly recommend you take time to listen to beautiful music, for example, with your eyes closed, or sit in silence with your eyes closed and perceive at a much greater level. And so this inner light is really what enlightenment is the meaning of. It is where neutrality exists, because the left and right duality of the left and right eye is then really neutralized. And so you're so present at that point of the eyes closed that there is no more division. You just sense the truth. You quiet down. Now, one thing I want to focus on for just a moment is Sagittarius and Jupiter are often equated to having high positivity. And when you live your life in a way where you don't engage with what we deem as negative, we are actually avoiding living fully. So it is not to necessarily constantly choose to be on the positive side of every experience we have. It is to be neutral. And the neutrality brings the actual inspiration that we need in any situation. So when we avoid being negative at all costs, it's not to be on the duality spectrum at all. It's not to be either positive or negative or deem others as such. It is literally to be fully present in a place where we are in the center. That's why the third eye is here, and the left and right are on either side. We want to be in the center and not choose one over the other, so we can experience all life has to offer. After all, we grow more often through what are deemed negative experiences than positive ones. The negative ones are the ones, what we deem negative, are the ones that really bring a lot of self-growth, spiritual growth, release, purging. So we need both sides of the equation. Just like a battery has negative and positive charges, if you have a battery that only has a positive charge or only has a negative charge, it won't work, right? Things won't start. So we, in the same way, need to partake in all of life, in the wholeness that the universe has to offer, so we can replenish. Because if we have a battery that's only on one charge and the other isn't working, there is no communication, there's no full electrical charge. And that's, if we're into constantly being positive, that's because the negative sector of the battery only exists in tandem with the positive charge. So this is a very important matter to consider, just like in the binary code of life, the computer code, and the 0 and 1 degree, or 0 and 1, which make up the binary code. They represent the feminine and masculine aspect, and they make up the code of the universe. Just like your soul is based on the binary code, your physical body is made up of the code of the universe. So we need to really be aware of how our mind has distorted this concept of being positive or being negative, and just seeing everything as energy instead, not living in that duality, and understand the significance of both in order to grow, and not favoring one over the other, but maintaining a sense of neutrality so that they come into balance. So you don't just choose light and cast away the darkness, because at that point you are choosing to not see the light itself, because there's no darkness to give it perspective. So we need to accept everything. Just like when we meet a person and get to know them, we accept them warts and all. We do not just seek to engage with their positive side and never listen to what we deem as their negative aspects. So it's really becoming more aware, more mature, that we cannot have one without the other, and to see Sagittarius, the archer with the bow, an arrow of truth, as a liberation, that all truth is good. And as it reveals the wisdom that is symbolized by Sagittarius, it helps us to see clearly the best next step to take, which is why Sagittarius governs that wide view, that beyond the horizon view. So in order to do that, we have to be present. We have to give ourselves moments of tremendous joy for no reason that comes through being utterly present in the present moment. We can't have fear, and that's really the key, because fear is what, the sense either feeling abandoned or feeling like we can't trust, have no faith. Those two underlying fears will bring us back into that duality. So if we give ourselves that sense of being utterly present, we feel that joy and we see it in everything as it appears. Like, oh, this is an opportunity. Opportunity, one of the key words to Sagittarius. So again, in order to really immerse yourself in this wonderful Sagittarius new moon energy, which brings such a breath of fresh air and lightens up our world, go to spiritualmasteryclass.com and enjoy that free masterclass, because it really governs so much, including the secret of spiritual mastery, the true meaning of your rising sign, the important difference between individuality and uniqueness, your natal sun and moon's profound meaning on living a joyful, abundant life of neutrality, and how to instantly connect to spirit. There are many, many tools we're going to look at together in that free masterclass. So head on over to spiritualmasteryclass.com. Have a gorgeous, uplifting Sagittarius new moon, and I will see you in next week's Star Codes podcast. Lots of love.